Yorick Bernison.
I'm ready to fight.
These people need our help, Yorick. Let's go give it.
We did 2,150 shots, which is pretty unheard of. We made 50 different creatures, plus lots of variations on top of them, all of them so they could hold up at 4K. We worked out some render times, which were pretty terrifying. If you did it on one computer, you'd have had to start at the end of the last ice age. I think the interesting thing about this show is, with the baseline being that everybody has a demon and there's talking bears, I think you find yourself in an interesting situation where you have a duty of care to the show and to the actors to get it right, because if you don't get it right, you tank the show. Yeah. That's where the skill of our animators comes in, and their ability to understand where the visual effects are there to support the story, support the narrative, and support the performers, and not be the point of the shot and the point of the show. Anytime you get a character like Yorick to do in visual effects and animation, it's like a total gift. To make Yorick, plus all the armour, and plus the other variations of the bears, we worked out to be about 700 days if one person sat down and did it. It's quite a lot. But I think that love is like on screen, you know, like you can see it, you can see like there's so much nuance and detail. It's the example of a creature that flexes every muscle of a visual effects pipeline, because he's got a full bone rig, you know, he's got the full bone rig, plus the muscles, plus skin simulation of the skin sliding over the bone and the muscle, plus the fur. Polar bears have got amazing fur because their fur is actually transparent. It's like a hollow tube, which means that it responds differently to light from every angle, which we have to get right as well. When we made the bear fight, which is obviously one of the big set pieces in the show, we basically worked out a kind of rough idea of the shape of the fight. We wanted it to kind of have 3 acts. Fundamentally, it started with me wrestling with a stuntman, with everybody filming it. We referenced the way that grizzly bears and polar bears fight. We used the way that polar bears break ice. They slam their hands down and break ice to get to food. So we used that as one of the actions in their fighting. And we also looked at some sort of mixed martial arts, basic wrestling. Because if you look at the way that bears fight, it's actually very similar to the way that humans grapple. And then what we did is we sent that to our brilliant animation team in Montreal, and they fleshed that out with the bears, everything to scale, using those same timings, those same beats, and looking at references from nature. And then the production's pre-vis and post-vis department, the painting practice, they did a really great thing in that they built the Bear Palace as an Unreal Engine game set that you could basically put the camera anywhere in, you could change the lighting, you could do all of those things. So what we did is we took the base animation of our bear fight and we put that inside our Unreal game engine, and then Jamie Childs came here to Framestore and he filmed virtually the bear fight. So we could work out how we would want to lens it, how we would want to sort of the position and the angles he wanted to be, and kind of the coverage that he would want. And then on the day when we filmed, Joel Collins, who's the production designer, was crazy enough to build the entire Bear Palace for real. So we took a virtual production tool called Vanishing Vector, which is uses a combination of the Unreal Engine and augmented reality to live track the set, register that to the Unreal Engine version of the set, and then what it allowed us to do is it allowed us to basically have the bears real-time displayed on the viewfinder of the camera operators, but registered correctly to the size and scale and shape of the room. And then sometimes when that stuff, you know, you want to go off-piste because you're there and you're in the room and everything's looking great, and you kind of go, well, actually, if we were over there and we had a shot that looked this way, that would be even better. So then we cracked the puppets out. So what we had is we had multiple bear rigs. We had full-scale bear rigs that were kind of made of carbon fibre, so it allowed them to stand up and come down onto all fours. So we also had this kind of analog method of doing it as well, and I'm a big fan of that. I think if you can have a digital solution and an analog solution, when one fails, the other one picks up. And so with all of that, we pieced all that together, and then that came back to Framestore for the full final animation. Using that process of virtual production means that we can get up front, we can get a bit of sign-off on whether or not the ideas are good and that people are into it. We can then also plan and prep for it, but then on top of that, we can then freestyle off the back of it. And I think those 3 things, in the context of trying to make a really high-end TV show, are kind of critical.
It's time.
I know.